What's funny, John, is that I'm not knocking anybody because I try to get out production a couple times, but it's interesting to me that everyone gets into real estate to not sell real estate.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the None Size Fits All podcast, season 2. My name is Jon Boller, and today I have a special guest. This is the first ever episode not recorded in Seattle. My guest is Matt Delhougne, and we are in Chesterfield, Missouri.
Yes, we are. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So before I go into it and start asking you a bunch of questions, I'd love just high level your company and your business and what it is that you guys do.
So I own the franchise here, and I've owned the franchise for 2 years, been in real estate since 1999. Currently we have 40 real estate agents on the team and roughly 15 support staff total. So this year we should hit 1,000 sites, roughly 200 million, 210 million, which is a 42% increase from last year.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations.
Good year. Can't complain.
So I'm instead of going through all the numbers, I've done that before, and we obviously talk about the numbers all the time. I want to talk about the office. So like the thing that you notice and what we notice when we walk into your office is the vibrancy. The amount of people that are in the office, everyone's happy, there's food, there's snacks. Like, I guess, what was the vision for this, and was it always this way, or is this something that is more recent?
I got a lot of these ideas from visiting some of my vendors throughout the years and picking up the vibes of what to do, what I like, what I didn't like. And I just didn't want a typical RE/MAX office or typical maybe broker's office to where it's all closed doors, non-shared ideas, everyone's locked away. I like the ideas that I want everyone open. I want the good agents to do their craft and have the other agents hear what they do. Mm-hmm. And that just creates a better environment to all, and because none of us are in competition. It works really well.
So the thing is like everyone comes in the office.
Absolutely. I don't understand why they wouldn't.
No, but how do you do that? Like, how do you actually get people to come in the office? Because it's not something I see in
right.
every single real estate office.
We're a very unique team, I think. And a couple things we always tell people, there's 3 qualifiers to make this team or stay on this team, because we absolutely interview, which is a lot different than other teams, is that they have to understand the culture. And I define the culture very detailed of what it is and what it is not. So we hire to the culture and we fire to the culture.
Sure.
We have training systems and processes in place, and they've got to completely adapt to those, because we don't quite care what they used to do because it didn't work. So they're here, so they have to learn our way.
Sure.
And more importantly, they got to show up. The agents that show up and understand our craft and sit down and ask questions and become engaged with our culture, they work. And we've got a track record for 5 years now almost that it's working at a high level.
So the culture, this office is how many?
Only 2 years. This is the second year.
And what was the office like before? And I guess how important has the kind of new changes that you made to the office, like you just expanded?
Yes.
How important has that been for the productivity?
It is completely. I was at a different RE/MAX office, great broker, great guy, great company, but it was very segmented. I'm like, some of my team was over here, some of my team was over here. It couldn't be my feel or the what I wanted to do for the entire company. So we're really logistically challenged and, quite frankly, culture challenged, because we were so segmented and we had to dwell on what they did, which isn't bad, but just different from us. So that's why I went on my own franchise, because we can literally create our own entity, our own breathing entity that's different than everything else.
So when you're interviewing people, because you interview people and say yes or no, how do you explain the vision of the culture and the expectations? Like, for somebody to succeed on your team, they need to do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
What does that look like? And share this.
So basically, when we interview people, it's very most agents, unfortunately, don't understand the interview process, and most agents or brokers will take anybody. But very quickly, when the agents come here, they understand they're being interviewed. And I tell everyone, I go, look, this is an interview process. And I start that off in the very beginning. I say, you are interviewing me just like I'm interviewing you. Because this is a marriage of sorts. We got to make sure we like each other and we're working together. The difference is here is that I have lead cost, and I have acquisition cost, and I have transaction support cost, and I have all these other costs that I'm investing in you. So you are my asset. So I've got to make sure, why should I invest in you? And they've got to answer that question. And it really throws people off, because no one has ever invested in them before. And we're talking between $2,000 to $3,000 a month, and sometimes. Mm-hmm. So they have to have a real understanding that I am investing in them and I'm taking a risk in them, and I expect an ROI from them.
Sure.
So when you start the conversation off that, it's completely different than they've ever heard before.
Sure.
And which is nice though.
So I've heard it before where it's like when a company generates leads, that's the corporate asset. That's not owned by an individual person. And obviously we know a lot of people buy leads and it's the agent's leads, right? I guess how do you look at that? Because you buy leads from different places.
Yep.
And it sounds like you bring that into the initial conversation.
Absolutely.
To set expectations. I guess how does that play out as it relates to your team when you're generating thousands of leads for them?
It's like, what do you mean when it plays out to the team? Like, give me some more reference.
How do you keep track of the kind of, is it fair? Am I distributing leads to everyone? If it's a corporate asset, which is your asset, how do you play the game of who gets the leads and how do you track it?
Easy. First of all, I always tell people, I just want to be really clear, that lead belongs to me, it doesn't belong to you.
Okay.
I'm really clear up front because you're leasing that lead from me. It's not yours. It never is yours.
It's a lease.
It's a lease. You're leasing my lead.
Okay.
Which means I can take it back at any time.
Sure.
So basically, we have a system that we call it a roll call. As a former policeman for many years, a roll call is just basically everyone shows up to make sure everyone shows up. What are the hot spots of the area? And supervisors kind of tell everyone what's going on for the day. So we have roll call at least twice a day, where the agents can opt in or opt out on leads that day.
Every day.
Every day.
Wow.
Because we don't want to assume that agent's always available when they've got childcare or they're sick or take a dog for a walk or live life outside of real estate, right? So it gives them a real buy-in of, am I working or am I not working? And if I'm not working in the morning, well, I can still work in the afternoon, which they love it because it gives them a life in real estate, which is very, very difficult to do.
Yeah.
And that way they can claim leads or get leads from my system when they're available to take the leads. And for a management standpoint, it gives me a peace of mind knowing that I know they're actually going to work the lead when I give it to them.
So it's kind of like a log-in, log-out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Logging or logging out to actually working or not. What happens if somebody doesn't log out? I'm sure that happens from time to time.
Well, there's not really log out. Like our roll calls are at 8 o'clock and roughly 4 o'clock every day. So can you respond to leads today? Yes or no? So if they say yes, and we expect when we send them a lead or we set an appointment in their Google Calendar, that they're literally calling to verify that they have the appointment set with the consumer within 5 minutes or less.
Nice.
Then at 4 o'clock, they're doing the same thing. Yes, I am, or yes, I'm not.
Yep.
And the other thing to even compound that is that the ISA squad, the ISA team, and our sales agents have the Google Calendar for every agent on my team. Now, I don't want to know what they're doing if they're sick or if they have to go to a baseball game or whatever.
Wait, they go to baseball games?
Apparently they have lives outside of real estate, which is weird, right? And they shouldn't do that. No, I'm kidding. But the point is they block out their calendar because I want them to have their own life. And if it's an appointment that's available in a geographical area that they understand, the ISAs will set an appointment. If they're not available, they'll just find another agent.
Sure. I want to talk about the cop thing. Former police officer.
Yep.
And when did you leave? I guess, first of all, how did you become a cop? And are you a good runner?
I'm an awesome runner. Ask anybody.
I heard.
No, I'm an awful runner.
Okay.
So I think I didn't really know what to do. After college, I only got my 2-year degree, and I didn't really know what to do. And I thought, man, being a cop is cool. You get a badge, you get a gun, right? How cool is that? And I'm big, so I would get a lot of fun. So I did that, and in 1994, I got hired by St. Louis County. And then roughly 1998, a lot of policemen do what's called secondary work, which means you work the restaurants or locations outside of police work as security guards or something like that. A lot, everywhere does that.
Okay.
But the problem with that is that a lot of policemen, they work 40 hours or more in their regular shift, and then you got to put the uniform on again to go do a secondary shift somewhere else. So it gets a little taxing on your body.
Yeah.
And I just wanted something else outside of police work. So on patrol one day, I'm driving around. I saw this girl putting up signs and, open house signs. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? Because I was a 24-year-old kid or 23. I didn't know what she was doing, right? I'm putting out these signs for an open house, and I asked her information about a house and ended up buying a house from her a year later.
Nice.
And then I asked her more about the questions about how to become a real estate agent, and I got licensed in 1999.
Okay.
And I roughly left police work, I think it was 2001 or late 2000, and been in real estate ever since.
Wait, so you got like a bug or something because you were doing it as your part-time kind of secondary gig, and then 2 years later you actually went full-time.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I guess why? What was the difference that made you say no?
I think because it was the freedom like a police officer, you can kind of do what you want when you want. And I like the idea that there's no glass ceiling in real estate. Mm-hmm. If I wanted to put in 80 hours and I was smart and I could hustle enough, I could make a lot of money.
Sure.
I was very fortunate that a lot of policemen used me early in the day, and I was making extremely good money. And I made the conscious decision when my wife we had our second one, and she stopped working, that I quit police work.
Nice.
So she was a bit nervous.
Yeah.
But we made it work. We had some tough times, there's no doubt about it, but here we are today.
Sure. In this awesome office.
Yes.
With a big team.
Yeah.
So what are the parallels? Like, I've never actually asked anyone this question. Like, what are the parallels between police work and...
There's several parallels, which is really interesting. Like, the biggest parallel is nothing's the same. And again, I'm not trying to compare police work to real estate because there's night and day.
Totally.
But like, every police call is different.
Yep.
Every real estate deal is different. Granted, there's no bodily harm and issues with the real estate thing, so that's a huge benefit. But everything is a little bit different. And you do have a little bit of freedom, which can be good and bad in both fields. So if you're a hustler in the police world, which, I don't think I was near as a hustler in the police world as I am a real estate agent, you can do a lot of metals and you can do a lot of things. But in the real estate, if you're a hustler, you're going to make a lot of money.
Yep.
So I like that. To me, those are the two big parallels.
I guess as an individual agent, you have that. Now you're running a team. How does it change there in regards to what you learned as a police officer to an individual agent to now a broker running a team of 40?
I'm responsible for 55, 60 families, and I take it really to heart that it's my job to make sure that I know what I'm doing and that I provide enough systems and money and opportunity to feed them and their family.
So that's like the purpose. We talked recently about purpose. What is the driver behind what you do, and why do you do it, and why is it so critical? What is that for you?
I'm providing a lifestyle to people that they can have the freedom of real estate and earn the income they want, but also have a life. I tell a lot of people that come to the team and are interviewing the team, I go, to me, we are about as corporate as you can get in the real estate world without being corporate. And that allows them to do things and go to events during the day, even though they're supposed to be working. They still have the luxury of clocking in and clocking out when they want here.
So you describe corporate real estate.
Like really, when you think about like the corporate world, whether it's your former place you worked or any place anyone works, it's, you're clocking in, you're clocking out. You got a boss, you have lunch break, you have all these things. To me, that's very corporate system processes. We have a lot of those systems and processes, but we don't have the micromanager overlooking. We don't have the clock in. We don't have the clock out. We don't have the breaks. Everyone just does what they want, as long as we're all obtaining the goal that we all are looking for.
Sure. Mm-hmm. And so the balance, how do you find the balance of you're the most corporate, non-corporate, right? Like, so how do you find the balance as it relates to your process and your profitability?
I find it honestly really easy because in real estate as a whole, and look at different agencies and teams and brokerages or whatever, and a lot of them are good and a lot of them are better than mine, but there is no structure at all. So it seems to be relatively easy to me, and I'm not a bright guy, but I can package a structure that's very similar to run like a police department, because that's where I came from. Mm-hmm. And when you look at it, it's like, roll call and sergeants and lieutenants and everything else is structure. But it gives everyone a little bit of boundaries and a little bit of accountability in a field when really has no accountability or structure.
It's fascinating because when I'm in here, obviously there's a ton of process, but when I see it, it's energy and enthusiasm, and everyone is it's really happy. Mm-hmm. And that's the culture that you've built. I guess the concept of purpose for you, when did that really, show up? When you had a team of 5, or when you went from individual agent to now I'm going to build a team, and you started to own the responsibility of other people's families. Mm-hmm. I guess, when did that happen? And is there a moment that you recall where it's like, wow?
Yes.
Do you share?
It was a time when I physically decided that I'm coming out of production, because I knew at that time when I'm in production, I am in charge of my own destiny, and everyone else on my team kind of is, but I'm kind of a team, kind of not a team. And I compare that to the part-time leader and the part-time producer. Mm. But now when you step out of production, that is my company. They are my client. The buyer and seller is not my client. Of course, they're my client by extension of the agent. Mm-hmm. But really, that agent is now my client. They're my responsibility. That receptionist is my responsibility. That TC is my responsibility. So their goals are now my goals. So that's when it really hit me hard that I am now responsible for everyone on my team or my company, because that's my job.
It's crazy because you've built this team really fast. You're focused on growth. You're focused on, you buy leads, provide service and process. The culture is fantastic. But you're also selling a ton of homes every month. How many homes are you guys selling every single month?
Usually between 80 to 125.
80 to 125 is volume. So if I'm let's like paint a picture for, I'm formerly an individual agent, now I'm transitioning to becoming completely out of production. What advice would you give to those people? Because there's a lot of them out there, like they've been an individual contributor, they're doing great, but how do you actually, I guess, what advice do you give them to get out of production, not be that 50-50?
Wow. They have to have the right people, for sure. I mean, that's
people as in,
like the people that they trust, people that are hardworking, people that they're the primary breadwinners, and they have a hunger for achievement, right? Mm-hmm. They can't be a part-timer whatsoever. So you have the right people that are hungry for it. You have to have the right systems and processes. In the beginning, I mean, we did not have the right systems and process. I went through 1,000 different systems and processes and failed 100 times, which no one really knows. Even I failed when I was a real estate agent in 2001 and 2. I've tried everything. You have to have the systems and process and the correct people in place to ever you think about getting out of production, because eventually what happens immediately is that your income goes down significantly. But you have to trust in your systems and your people that eventually that will go back up.
When you talk about people, is that individual agents and operators that help?
Both. I mean, you have to have a very, very strong transaction coordinator or a admin person that's really keeping everything together. Mm-hmm. And you have enough people. You have to have people to work with the buyers and sellers that deliver a high service that you delivered. Sure. So it constantly fills that pipeline of more leads.
And it's your brand. It's the brand.
Absolutely right.
So, mm-hmm. Okay, there's that moment, like you're an individual agent, you're producing, you then are making a choice. Do you say go 50-50 first and then move to completely out of production? Or is it...
You know, what's funny, John, is that I'm not knocking anybody, because I try to get out of production a couple times, but it's interesting to me that everyone gets into real estate to not sell real estate. And I don't understand this. Like, I'm not going to say any companies, but everyone knows what I'm talking about. They all, the 5th level, the 6th level, the 7th level, which is all great. And I'm very fortunate to be at that 6th or 7th level. I have no clue what level I'm at, nor do I care, because I'm having fun. But it's like everyone is getting into real estate to sell homes, to immediately get out of real estate to manage their team. It's like, well, you got to love what you do first. You have to understand the trade first. Mm-hmm. You have to understand every angles of the trade before you can get out of it.
Sure.
And it seems to me a lot of people are not ramping up their systems, their lead sources, their processes or transactions to where they actually can step out, because they haven't done it long enough to understand what they're stepping out of.
Got it. So people are too quickly to join or to try to create a team without having everything set up.
Correct.
But what do you do? I mean, you and I talked about this before. What do you do when you're weighing the benefits of hiring a person, which is really an expense because you're not going to see the instant gratification? And more in particular, I'm thinking about like the individual agent.
Right.
How do you balance the like bets and the seeds that you plant? Like, how do you do that? And mentally, I guess you did it. So what I've done, and I've done everything by what I call long math, which means like, okay, what would happen if it was just me? And I'm Excel knucklehead, you know that. Like I literally I have 20 different Excel sheets of me, just me, and me and one admin, and one buyer's agent, and on to the entire team. And then I backed out how much net I possibly could make based upon all these different avenues. Mm-hmm. And there comes a time where two things happen on every agent's life. They either hit an income ceiling to where like I physically can't close anymore, or they hit a time ceiling. I have no more time in the day for me, and/or I have no more time to do anything else besides real estate. And that's when they have to start duplicating themselves to give up a little bit to gain a lot. Sure.
And a lot of agents are very scared to do that. They do it too soon, or they do it in the correct way. And that's why a lot of people are having a very difficult time on making big teams, because they're rushing into getting out of production and going to the next level.
So not providing enough ops.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, it's enough ops, and/or just to stay in the procedure until you duplicate yourself. And that means you're not handling any paperwork. And then you hire a buyer's agent, and where you're only handling listings. Then you hire another buyer's agent, because all the listings are going to give more buyers. Uh-huh. And then eventually you hire a listing agent. And then maybe you're just taking the very, very high-end stuff. And eventually you just start weaning yourself off to where all of a sudden you're just, wow, I'm managing now.
So there's a ceiling of time. I think we all get that. And not everyone is going to work the full however many hours.
Right.
So you work crazy hours.
Yep.
But then there's income related to time.
Correct.
Have you ever seen it, though, where there is a ceiling on income simply because I'm comfortable at this level and I don't actually want to chase more?
Absolutely. I mean, I went through that to where I was very fortunate years before that I've had very good income years. But the problem is that I've told this to actually very, very big teams and big producers who are in charge of their own team, but they're producing. I love producing, and I make a lot of money. And I said, That's great. Do you have a team? Yes, I got a team. I said, do you have a job or a business? You have a business. I go, how much are you responsible for your business? It's 50%. I go, you have a job. Because if something happens to you, you have no income. So what happens if something happens to you? God forbid you hit by a bus or you break your leg or,
you go on vacation.
You go on vacation, right?
Yeah.
Your business does what? Does it grow or does it die? It dies. So I've been very fortunate enough that I can go away for 30 days and my business actually grows every month.
What's the last 30-day trip you went on?
I don't go on 30-day trips.
What about like a 2-weeker?
I don't go on 2 weeks.
1 week.
We went on 1 week, almost a week. Was it 2 weeks ago?
Okay.
Went to California.
Nice.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful.
This Shannon and I, it was awesome.
It's really hot.
It was awesome. It was not.
Yeah.
It was like 75 degrees.
I lived in Orange County, and there was a time when it was too hot and it was too sunny.
Oh.
I live in Seattle, obviously, and it's too rainy, and it was hot enough. So
it was awesome.
Let's talk about ISAs for a little bit. So you have an ISA team. How many ISAs?
5 full-time, 2 part-time.
Okay, 5 and 2 part-time, and a couple of part-time are son and
his buddy.
Awesome.
Yep.
So it's like it's a great place for them to start off part-time gig. I think that's something that we always do with our own business. We always have people that we're helping get career development and basically career experience.
Absolutely
that's
right.
Awesome. The ISA concept, obviously, there's a bunch of the different services out there. Every company has these things. I guess, why do you have an ISA service in-house, and what benefits do you get by having that within your own ecosystem?
So there's a lot of conversation that can go into that because you have a lot of companies that are doing mandatory concierge, some are doing optional, and there's probably 24 companies that you can buy into their concierge service, right? But what I always thought several things. Number one is that I want to be in control of my own business, even if it's the same and or a little worse than somebody else because I have control. Number two is that I know that my agents or my ISAs, which all of them except the part-timers are licensed agents, they know my market and they know it better than anybody else sitting at anywhere else. It's just known fact. They can also see inflections on voice and or certain particular areas and or houses or price points that we can guide or move to the correct agent, which other systems will not do. If we see a flaw or an issue, we can change on the fly with an in-house versus outsource. So to me, I could probably go on and on. There's at least 4 to 5 things to me that are extremely important to have an in-house ISA system. However, it is very taxing, so the cost per lead to me is tied to that, and it goes up quite a bit.
Sure. But
in my estimation, our ROI proves that it's worth it.
What are the hours that your team is working? And I guess, is it like every day?
Right. So it's, the major holidays, like we're off. Like Christmas Day, we're off. Thanksgiving, we're off. Several of the major holidays, they'll work maybe half day. If not, then we'll do a Shark Tank type of jump ball type of situation. But we do Sunday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 3 a.m.
Okay.
Friday and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then it's jump ball the other times.
What's really exciting about the industry right now for you?
Exciting is an interesting word. I would say, I don't know if exciting, I would say disruption is the word that we all think about.
Buzzword.
That's the buzzword. Disruption and mandatory are my favorite words right now.
Okay. Why? Please elaborate. So
it's interesting how everyone wants a piece of commission. Everyone wants a piece of real estate because real estate's a thing. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of things that need to go. Real estate's probably a traditional industry that probably can use a little bit of changes here and there to shore up some of the inexperienced agents that's going on, right? Which is okay. But then you have a lot of people going into the field of real estate and they're really disrupting the flow. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. They just are, which makes the consumer confused, and they're getting in the way of the real estate agent when they don't want to talk to a lot of people, especially when you make it mandatory. They want to talk to an agent, and then they want to look at a home.
So when you got into real estate, 99.
Yep.
The level of disruption was what?
I mean, we had a book. Like if you want to see a house, you call that office, and when you look through the book, and you know, that's how you did it. Everything went through the agent's office because there's no. I don't know if those were cell phones. Yeah, there were cell phones.
Okay.
But everyone had a pager and silliness, right? I mean, there was no internet as it was now. It was very
phones.
slow.
You were calling home phones.
Oh yeah, home phones. Yeah, wow. And people would call the office to set appointments.
iBuyer and the combination of iBuyers. I guess what's your take on that? And it's not in St. Louis. Maybe Redfin's version is, but
right. Honestly, in the whole scheme of things, I'm not super worried about the whole iBuyer or the instant offers from Zillow or a lot of other things because I think that's a very, very small percentage of the market that's going to affect us or not affect us. And I think these people were looking for a quick out anyway, because they're selling a percentage under value, which means they're letting it go for undervalue. So maybe they would have never hit the market anyway. Okay. Or if they would hit the market, they would have went to maybe an investor, then it might have never been listed or sold anyway.
Sure.
So I think it's a disruptor, but I don't think it's a major disruptor as of yet, is what I've seen.
Got it. And then the Purple Bricks, Redfin, discount brokerage, if you will. I guess, where do you see that playing out in the future?
I owned an assist to sell years ago, and assist to sell was a discount brokerage. A lot of people don't know that. And I did that for about 2 years. And discount brokerages work extremely well in a seller's market.
Okay.
In a buyer's market, they don't work very well because it's much more difficult. Because when you put a sign in the yard, and if it's no months of inventory or a 1 month inventory, the house is going to sell. Sure. Unless there's something drastically wrong. So I firmly believe once we have price corrections and once we see the market shifting, which I see it already happening, especially in my market, that the discount brokerage is going to get hurt very quickly, because that's what happened to a lot of the discounters back in 2004, 5, and 6. I mean, they just started disappearing because they couldn't make their quotas because they work on a transaction basis, low income.
Yeah.
So I see the same thing with them.
So no fear there. Why do you think they came back? Like if it was a thing back in the day and now it's coming back?
I think everything cycles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just like NAR. I mean, for years when 2008 hit and everyone got out of real estate, so NAR's numbers went way down. Mm-hmm. I think they're back up to 1.1, 1.2 million members again, which we both know most of them sell, no homes a year or 2 homes a year.
Why? Okay, so that always drove me crazy, right? Mm-hmm. The amount of people getting into the space, and this professionals are the ones saying a lot of people don't sell homes, right? Sell a minimum amount. What is it about the industry?
I have a very simple theory.
Okay.
And it's very simple. Most people, I can't say all, most people get into real estate by accident. No one goes to high school and goes, I'm going to be a real estate agent. Right? They just don't. They go to high school and they go to college and become a business major or home ec major, econ major, whatever the case may be, right? And they try the profession, or they go, I hate the profession, but it seems like real estate's fun. I have the hope of having no glass ceiling. It looks easy. You show a house once in a while, you get paid big bucks. So then everyone wants to become an agent because it seems easy, and it really does. So they all get their license. It costs thousands of dollars to get licensed and become a board member and a super member and all that crap. And then you get licensed. Most people fail roughly in 3 months or less. But they went through the process, and it was so difficult and so expensive that they go a part-time agent. And NAR's okay with part-time agents because their dues are the same.
Wow.
So that's what happens to the real estate, is that everyone is 86% fail rate. Well, that doesn't mean 86% of people get out of real estate. They just do it part-time.
So if I'm a new agent, do I join a team? Is that like a...
Personally, you've got to... I always tell people in real estate, 86% of people, because they made the wrong decision. If you were coming to me and the first thing I'd say is, John, do you have 3 months of oh crap money? I call it oh shit money.
Oh shit money. All right.
You have 3 months of oh shit money. They go, what do you mean? I go, well, it takes an average of 3 months to understand if you can make this work, get leads into your pipeline, get leads under contract, you can get paid. And if you choose the wrong team on our brokerage, you don't have 6 months of oh shit money, do you? You might have 3. Which means that the second month, if you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, if you don't see a commission check coming, what is John going to do? John's going to get a part-time job because you got bills to make, which means now you're in that cycle.
Yeah.
And you can't get out of the cycle because people want to see a house when they want to see it, not when John's off work at his part-time gig.
Got it.
So that's why people always fail in 3 months, and their first decision is always, not always, mostly wrong because they went to the wrong broker, the wrong team, or whatever, the wrong agency. Because they didn't have what you needed to make you successful.
Let's say I gave you 5 minutes in front of a group of 30 new agents, and you're going to give them the 3 recommendations of what you would do to succeed, or the 3, like these are the reasons why people succeed, or these are 3 of the reasons. And then you're also going to give them 3 of the kind of don'ts, like this is something that I would avoid or don't do. What are the 3 do's and don'ts?
Okay, very, very simple. Just like I said, you have to have 3 months of oh shit money.
Okay.
I mean, that's a non-negotiable thing. Number 1, you've got to give it 110%.
What does that mean? You say 110%, but
most agents, I mean, like I give like 150%, and some people give 50%. But like I live and breathe real estate from 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. at night, and I call you at 10 p.m. Not you, so you know that, right?
Yeah.
But you have literally got to make this your lifestyle. It's not a job.
Okay.
It's a lifestyle. So if you want to play real estate and you want to make $30,000 or $40,000, then play real estate, but you're going to make $30,000 or $40,000. If you literally develop a career and a lifestyle, you will make $50,000, $80,000, $90,000, $150,000, $200,000. But you've got to literally eat and breathe it.
Okay.
So that's what I tell people. Number one, 3 months of oh shit money, you've got to make it a lifestyle. You can't say, "Oh, I'm only going to work these hours." That's cute. That doesn't happen in real estate.
Yep.
The consumer wants to see a house. You've got to bend to their will. That's what just happens. And the other one, you have to investigate everything before you go to the agency you go to.
Okay.
And or team and or broker or whatever. Because if you don't, most people don't. They interview just like they interview one brokerage or they go, they're the biggest in years, so I go to them. I go, it doesn't mean crap.
Sure.
If you go to ABC brokerage and there's 300 agents and you're thinking is they're the best, the first question I ask the agents, I go, I want you to go interview before I hire you, John. The first question I want you to ask that broker is, how many agents are at his office? He'll say 300. And I go, how many people manage him? 2. How are you going to manage me? So when you ask these questions and they go, oh, I didn't know that. I go, well, you need to know because you're not asking the right questions.
Yeah.
And that's why agents fail. So those are 3 things I'd say you have to do.
The lifestyle one, I obviously read a lot about Amazon and Bezos. And Bezos, that's something he just said recently. He said, like, I don't look at work as work. I look at, like, it's just a part of my life. And he's like, I love my job. And I'm not saying that is right necessarily. But I think you fall more into that bucket where it's not work to you because
it's passion.
It's passion and enthusiasm.
Yes.
I guess, is the theory that you have to keep searching for the next thing until you find a passionate job, or will you fall into that passion based on the job you do?
Wow, that's deep, John. I don't know. I honestly think I got lucky.
Okay.
I mean, do I think everyone on my team or at my brokerage or every team, whatever, is it their passion? Of course not. But I think in my life, I've told myself years ago, when I finally meet my maker, I didn't ever want a regret. So that's why I failed so many times, which people don't understand this. I've been to 15 different companies. I've owned 3 different real estate offices. I'd owned a different mortgage company before this. I've been part-time, full-time. I've done it all, and I'm not smart enough to stop doing it. I kept doing it because I knew I was onto something bigger, and it was my passion. I got lucky.
So luck. Bezos also says that if you walk into a situation you potentially are going to have regret, then you should do it. And that's exactly what you're describing. So I don't think it's necessarily you got lucky. It was that you were willing to fail forward over and over and over again until the thing happened, which is what you were passionate about. So I don't think that's I always felt you almost get like 3 of these golden opportunities in your life, and it's up to you to decide that is one of those and push through it independent of if it's going to work out or not. So I think you're living and breathing that, and you can see it, in your office with the way that kind of everyone seems to be feeling that same thing. So now the 3 things that you would highly recommend not doing, what are those?
I would say just being all in. I don't know if I have 3. I would say just be all in. Like when I played basketball in high school, and I know you played hockey for years. Like, when you show up, I don't care if you show up to a buyer's appointment. I don't care if you show up to a meeting. I don't care if you're showing up to your wife's dinner. I don't care what it is. Be there. I mean, mind, body, everything. Be physically present, because when you're physically present and you're engaged, everything seems to work.
How do you do that? Because life has...
It's hard, man.
So life, things happen, right?
Squirrel.
Squirrel. For everyone listening, Matt says squirrel randomly, and then everyone was looking around looking for squirrel. I don't know what that's from.
It's from a cartoon.
Is it
Up? I think the dog and
Up. Yeah. And the grandpa going up.
With the dog. Yeah.
So how do you? Life throws things at you, and you say, be on, be focused, be passionate, be there. How do you do that? It's easier said than done, but there's going to be moments where things happen, and you're like,
well, of course things happen, but very simple things like in a meeting where it's a pretty deep meeting, and there are people in the back of the meeting on someone giving some very good value content, and you're on your phone, that's not being present. I mean, what is so important that it supersedes whatever's being said? Or if you're on your date, I'm trying to do my best, but with your significant other, and it's the first time you've been out in 2 months, and you're on your phone or checking the highlights of a sports game or whatever, that's not that hard to do.
Sure.
But in our dating society, I'm not trying to give any theory advice or anything. It's very hard to do because we all have ADD and we all have instant gratification. But that's the same. Like if you're my buyer and we both got out of the car at the same time, and I walk up to you and I had my head down and I'm going like this and I give you my hand to shake my hand, but I'm looking at my phone, is that a good impression?
No, not at all.
It's awful. Just be present in the moments that count.
So we talked a little bit about this today. Like, how do you take your business from the business of running a business? You're running a business, you have process, you have structure, you have scripting, all this stuff being thrown at you as a professional. But we talked a lot about, like, at the end of the day, these are human beings. And how do I kind of think about them as humans and make sure that I'm not so focused on the structure that Matt put in front of me, even though like you have autonomy there. I guess what do you say to an agent? Because at the end of the day, these are human beings that are making life choices, and we are conditioned in the industry that these are leads or contacts. How do you turn and how do you differentiate yourself in your market based on the human dynamic?
I mean, that's always a challenge, but really at the end of the day, that's the easiest challenge you overcome. Because you just have to remember, if you ever bought a house before or a condo or whatever it is, how exciting that process was. And if I'm a consumer, I'm going to remember how my agent dealt with me or not dealt with me based upon their enthusiasm. So if I show up, hey, John, I'm so happy. I'm ready. Let's go look at this house. I'm happy for you. Who are you going to talk to about me? Everyone you know. If I'm just ho-hum and I'm opening the door, I'm Eeyore from freaking Winnie the Pooh, I'm a knucklehead, and I'm not very enthusiastic, are you going to be really happy to talk to about me to everybody else?
Sure.
But if I'm enthusiastic and I'm looking out for your best interest and go like, man, John, this is a great deal for you. You know what? Before you put pen to paper, write this contract, is there anybody else you want to bring in before we do this to double check to make sure you're making the right decision? Like your mom, your dad, your grandma, grandpa, uncle, aunt, uncle, wife, whatever. So when you get other buy-ins and you look at them like I always tell my agents, treat everyone like your brother or sister, your mom and dad. And if you do that, man, you always win, because when you tell people they shouldn't buy a house and you give them the reason, the loyalty factor went through the roof.
Okay.
Because now you're like, John, look, you're kind of my brother. If you don't mind, do I have permission to treat you like my brother?
Of course.
And if they're going to say yes, say, okay, this is a POS. You're not buying this house because of 1, 2, and 3. You're going to go like, oh, crap, I've never been talked to that way. And who are you going to say that to? You're going to go call your mom or dad or whatever and say, you're not going to believe what my agent said. He said I shouldn't buy this house. It's a POS because it backs to a freaking busy road.
You're walking away from deals?
I'm walking away from deals. But your parents are going to go, I like that guy.
Of course.
Because he's looking out for my son when I thought maybe someone wouldn't.
So the lifetime value, the sphere of influence, all of the stuff that you get.
It leads into everything. It leads into referrals. It leads long term. But you just treat people like family. Hopefully you like your family, right? And you treat people like family and things come around. I mean, when I was a policeman working, because I did both, and I got out of police work, there was no Zillow, there was no Trulia, there was no Realtor leads, there was word of mouth.
Yeah.
And I just treat everyone literally like my brother and sister, and I told them this is a good deal, this is a bad deal. Because I always tell them, I go, John, here's the deal. I want to make sure if I sell you this house and you call me in 3 years, that I sold you a good house and I can sell it for you.
So let me ask you this. This is definitely a little deeper, but I think about families and the experiences and the stories. Like, there's all those stories as you grow up with your family. We're talking about, remember that one time that this happened. Do you think that has a kind of part influence in why people get into real estate? Because they think of the home as this place where stories are created and memories are created, and I want to help other people see that.
I think everyone in real estate gets, when they first start, they have that. Like, where is the menorah going? Where is the Christmas tree going? Where's Thanksgiving dinner or that, whatever. Yeah. But unfortunately, I think the more transactions you do, some agents lose light of that a little bit. And you've got to be grounded enough to understand this is somebody's future. This is where people are getting married. This is where people are babies are born. This is where the puppy's getting brought home. This is where people pass. These are life-changing things that must be thought about, because you are literally changing people's lives with this decision.
So is that something that you teach to, or
we try to teach as much as we can? I mean, I come from a Catholic family, so I've got Catholic guilt like you wouldn't believe. It was all a good thing, but it's all good. But you try to teach it as much as you can, but sometimes you just can't, and that's why it's a culture thing. When you hire them, do they have that? Do they have that inner feeling to that they're emotional and they care? Because I don't want somebody that's just throwing out transactions. I want that person to care about me. I want them to care about their teammate, and I want them to care about the buyer and seller.
So differentiation,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that you guys have just from when I walk in the office. You're expanding, so now you have like twice the space.
Yeah, 8,500 square feet.
So how do you differentiate yourself in a specific market? I think I often hear about competition, but like really, is there competition in these regions?
I think there's always competition because everyone and their brother has somebody in real estate, right? They all have somebody. And I tell people, like, I know we have scripts. I mean, I know you've seen the scripts. I know you've heard the scripts. But at the end of the day, I tell everyone, we are not a script company. We're not a sales org. We're not sales org. We're a service orientation. Yeah. Most of the people here are policemen or former policemen or have policeman ties or paramedics or teachers. I mean, we're all service industry people. So we want to service. So if Jon says a retort on something that you don't want to buy a house or not, we don't have a script to get you back into the house. Yeah. It's, okay, let's go find another one.
Of course.
Because we always want to look out for the best person. So I don't know if that answers your questions or not, but I just look at it as a service industry, and I think they hear it from the top down here.
That's fantastic. So I'm going to ask you, we always talk about whiteboarding, and you sometimes... It could come late or it could come early, and it's like, I've been thinking about this idea and I have this thing that I want to do, and I guess, how do you stay on and how do you kind of control your own ideas so that you're running a million miles an hour trying to come up with a new thing that you want to do, and you implement things quickly, which is the beauty of owning your own business. Like, I guess, how do you kind of control that? How do you actually deal with it?
That's hard, and I really feel bad for the people around me.
No, I
really do, because
it's inspiring.
Because I mean, daily it's like, I had an idea. And I go, oh, geez, squirrel. and we know, and I know this, that what's funny. I mean, JoJo and Todd and Johnson, you and some others, they're privy or a disadvantage to know some of my ideas. But what in reality, you guys only know about 20% of the ideas that I have. Yeah, that's scary.
That's dangerous.
But I also know that sometimes just because I have an idea or it might be a good fit or it might be a good process, it might not be the right time.
Of course.
And there's many times that I've had ideas. I'm like, this is a good idea, but man, we're not ready here. We're not ready as a team. We're not ready as a region. We're not ready at all in the industry. And I shelf it. And sometimes I try to come back to it. But just like everyone else, sometimes I make those things fit when they shouldn't fit. And I learned the hard way.
Yeah. What's one that you think is funny, an idea that you had that was a crazy idea now? It's not about like it being failing, but rather it just was a crazy idea.
Oh, I really can't think of one, honestly. I would tell you.
They're all that good?
No, I just have sometimes disease. Sometimes I forget, sometimes I remember. So I don't have any ideas that I can say, oh my God, that was the silliest, craziest idea. But if something comes up, I'll let you know.
Please. The future of real estate.
The future of real estate is in question.
Okay, why?
I've only been in real estate since 1999. It's only, 18, 19 years, whatever that math is. Again, sometimers. I've never seen this much disruption. I've never seen so many people or industries or corporations or entities pulling at the real estate commission. And in my opinion, I don't think we have a true representation or entity that's fighting back on these things. Because if we really would, we would see more fighting going on. I don't know, Jon. And I think, honestly, if I knew that, I think I'd be a billionaire very quickly. But I know real estate will exponentially change the way I know it within 5 years.
And the way you know it now, is that for the better? And obviously I think that's probably dependent on
which side you fall on. I mean, do I think commissions and or splits and or pay or profit will be compressed? I absolutely do. How much, what percentage? I have no clue, no idea. Do I think it's going to be moved to a more consumer-based model of some sort? Of course it will be. Because every other entity is moving that way. And everything's to be moving on to a now industry. And unfortunately, real estate is not a now industry. So I think it by default is going to have to move to that. How much, or where, or when? I wish I knew, because I'd be on top of that.
When your son Max buys their first home, is it going to be like a robot from outer space that comes in?
I don't know. I honestly have no idea. I can't even think, because in my estimation, real estate to me is changing every 3 to 6 months. Not huge, but there's slight changes every 3 to 6 months, and there are some big players that is purposely doing this every 6 months, and I built my team on some of these big players, but they keep on moving the bar. And I tell them all the time, I go, you're like hitting a moving target. And I'm very fortunate enough that I can be free of my team to watch the target. Because if I wasn't 6 months or trying to hit your target, there's no way I'd be profitable. So that's the most difficult thing that so far, knock on wood, knock on my head, whatever, I feel we're always 6 months ahead of my competition because I'm up here looking down versus in the production.
So, okay, interesting topic. At lunch today and just being around you, you see, like, your phone doesn't stop ringing, and it's always a salesperson from somewhere. And there's nothing short of, like, hundreds of vendors calling you all. One, I guess, how do you handle all of the phone calls to sell you something? And then I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts on what is it that you expect of the people that you partner with? What do you expect of them and as a relationship, as tools, whatever it may be, because you're paying them?
So the first one is that my phone or my email, it does not stop. People really don't understand that, but it's literally not stop. I get, 100 emails or more sometimes a day. And a lot of them are whatever. But the vendors, if they don't leave a message, of course, they never call. And if it's a vendor that leaves a message for whatever product they're peddling or they're selling, it could be good or bad. If I think there's any value to it, I send it to the appropriate party or my leadership division, i.e. Rachel in the ISA, i.e. Jojo in marketing, i.e. Michelle in transaction coordinator, i.e. Kathy in my office management, because they're going to deal with that, not me. And I do not want to get down on the nitty-gritty of what they're offering if I don't understand what that leadership does anyway. I just expect, I give a lot of leadership powers, if you will, to my leadership team because it's their gig. They're running their department, and they report to me, which is nice. So if they need a tool and or a process, they come to me with the tool and the process. They explain, here's my options, because they give me options, not on an Excel spreadsheet, but kind of. And here's potential ROI or the problems it will or will not solve. Okay. And based upon that, I say do it or don't do it. So what I expect of the vendor is be upfront and honest with whatever they're offering me and deliver what they're offering me. But then I expect them to get out of my other way. If I'm doing other things, just give me the product, give me the service, and let me be, and just treat me like a client. And I think that's what anyone would just expect out of a normal business relationship. So when they start doing things that are not in my best interest, or where I have no say, or where I have to, it's not a business partnership anymore. It's a little bit of a dictatorship that we're doing it this way, and you still need to pay us or provide. That's not a partnership. You took that partnership away from me, and now you're telling me what I have got to do. Partnership works two ways. That's a one-way street. So that's usually when I try to do my best to make it work, but if not, I've got to cut ties.
Got it. Anything else? Anything else we're missing?
We went pretty deep, but it is a lot of fun. What else you got?
Season 3.
Season 3.
All right. So thanks again.
You're welcome.
That was awesome. Value our friendship.
Me too.
You guys are crushing it. Office is awesome. Your team is fantastic. So that concludes the next episode of None Size Fits All. Matt, thank you. Have a good night. We'll chat soon.
Sounds
Everyone
good.
else, have a good evening.